Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
All right. Welcome to Richard Listens on Sports, live right here on UBN Radio TV and Facebook.com/RichardListens. If you're watching on Facebook Live, leave your comments or questions, because Dr. Richard loves nothing better than to answer your questions or make a comment on your comments. So I'm sitting here with none other than Dr. Richard Olberger. The one and only. So I know you're really excited with how the New York Giants did in championship NFL weekend. And now we're oh, wait, that's right.
That's okay. 3-13 will get you there. But we got a new head coach.
Yeah, and same for my Bears. I think we're in the same exact I think we're picking back-to-back in the draft. We both have exciting new head coaches. I'm excited.
Benefits of starting over.
So the motto of our show is sports and life and the intersections in between. And we do like to kind of pride ourselves that we don't talk about your typical sports things per se. But it is, a little bit exciting that Super Bowl's coming up. And so even though we don't go in depth into, your typical sports talk, just what are your thoughts? Eagles, Patriots, rematch. What do you think?
Nobody can hold the Patriots down like the Giants, but I got to give it up to my division rival, the Eagles. Their defense looks tough. They surprised us yesterday, and I'm going to go with Philadelphia on this one.
I like it. Yeah, I just have a feeling that they're going to be able to do what the Falcons did last year, but then hold it, I think.
Yeah, but boy, oh boy, if there's an athlete that can never be kept down, just yesterday when you have that moment of thinking like they've got Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He somehow finds a way.
Yeah, it's like they're down by 10 going into, the fourth quarter, and you're like, I'm afraid for Jacksonville. It's like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And somehow they were the good guys back in, when they beat the Rams, and now they've become, the evil villains of the NFL.
The Patriots?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. They're like the Yankees of the NFL, for sure. It's hard to root for them, but I can't help but appreciate the dynasty that they've built all these years. It's crazy.
So let's go for the underdogs and Nick Foles, who was probably on his couch somewhere a year ago.
I know.
Back up.
I know. Just wild. What a game he played. But all right, enough of that. AJ Collier's watching us on Facebook Live. Always exciting to have our old friend AJ, lacrosse coach, watching us. Very, very excited about our guest today. We'll be meeting her in just a few minutes, but man, I'm telling you, Dr. Richard, this woman is a dynamo, and I can't wait to introduce her to our audience.
I'm excited. It's funny how our topics and what's happening in life overlap. Our guest will be at the Super Bowl, and it's exciting the way we always talk about the journey of athletes and people who channel their inner athlete into their careers, and it's amazing. To have, we don't want to spoil it just yet, but to have someone who both channels their passion into their careers and into maintaining their athletic talents and into helping athletes. So
Unbelievable.
This is awesome, and we're thankful.
Unbelievable. And that's actually a good segue, saying unbelievable. My segues are awful. I try to make good segues, but they always end up being awful. But
you've got a cold. We'll give you
Thank
2%
you.
forgiveness today.
Which is why I've got the scarf on. It's like keeping the neck warm, part of, maintaining the cold.
It's kind of stylish, though.
No, thank you. And I got my Clippers hat on, because, I was, even though I'm a Chicago and a Bulls guy, I've been out here 25 years. And so I was always loving the Clippers and all those 23 years of downtime. So
after 20 years, you can adopt a local team.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
we should make a movement.
So, speaking of unbelievable, we have our unbelievable fitness wellness expert, Caitlin Patricia Weiler, and she's actually traveling the world, the globetrotter that she is. And
So let's get her before she takes
we are,
off.
yeah, she's about to hop on a plane. But if Jarvis would be so kind to tune her in, let's welcome our fitness wellness expert, Caitlin Patricia Weiler.
Hi, guys. Can
Hi,
you hear me?
Caitlin. Yes, we hear you. Is the plane taking off
I am currently
yet?
on, just about. We're on the plane. It's pouring rain. I've been rerouted and been on different flights, but I'm so happy because it was a blessing in disguise because I didn't get to miss a show. So I'm happy to be here, and I'll get right into my fitness wellness minute. I have kind of ramped up my own cardio game recently, and I was actually seeing a lot of results and feeling differently from, treating my cardio differently. So I wanted to just kind of mention to people who normally use a treadmill to kind of think about changing that up, because the treadmill is something that is actually kind of moving your body for you. Instead of using something, instead of your treadmill, using something that's user powered, like, a rower or an air bike. I've been doing a lot of spinning lately, and that's using your full body to stay in motion, which is actually going to give you a more efficient cardio workout at the end of the day.
I love it.
Sorry, you're hearing the flight announcements
That's
now in the
okay.
background, probably.
No, but that's a great. Actually, it's great because I think the last several shows have been. Jarvis, go ahead and pause the audio on that one right there. The last several shows have been wellness tips, and it's great to get a good, solid fitness tip.
And people are looking now in the new year for things they can do, especially in colder climates, in their house. So you heard it from Caitlin. Yeah, get a rower, get an air bike. I wonder how she feels about the Peloton. Those look awesome.
So go ahead and bring her back up real
Yes,
quick.
they do look awesome. I haven't tried one yet, though.
All right. Well, you must try one then.
That means we can race each other across the country no matter what environment we're in. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Caitlin, we're so glad that you were able to get into the show by the skin of your teeth here, and we thank you for your awesome fitness tip, and we look forward to, I think you're going to be live in studio for our next show on February 5th.
Yes, I will definitely be in studio, and I was hoping that these announcements would stop. Perfect. So I just wanted to thank all of our listeners, too. And because it is the new year, I wanted to offer all of our listeners a good percentage off any of my nutrition services. So if you go to my website or you reach out to me anytime before our next show, I'm taking about 30% off all of my services for anyone who mentions Richard Listens on sports. So you can reach out to me on kitbody.com if any of our listeners are interested in my online nutrition services.
Wow, I love it. That's a great deal.
Awesome. Look forward to having you
All
here
right,
in
well,
LA,
thank
Caitlin.
you guys so much for getting...
Definitely have safe travels, Caitlin. Woo, talk about, that was like the plane just like taking off and hitting the roof of the car as it's coming down the runway, that was good timing there. So yes, so a great discount for our viewers and followers for Coach KitCait services, and another great fitness tip from Caitlin. So,
On with the show.
yeah, I just want to get into it because, as you kind of said earlier, sometimes we'll kind of talk on for 8 or 9 minutes at the start of the show, but there is just too much we need to talk about with our guests. So our guest is the head of sports partnerships at Tagboard, and she's also the director of football operations, PR, and social media at First Pick Sports. Also a former athlete, right, Dr. Richard?
That's right. I just want to talk about the hammer throw.
I know.
Really,
She's
I'm focused in. There it
freaking
is, the
hammer
girlfriend.
throw. So yes, let's welcome our guest, Farren Benjamin. Woo!
Hi, guys.
Hi, Farren.
How are you both?
You're amazing. Glad to be here.
I know. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you on the show, and there's so much to talk about.
So we understand you had to go shopping for the show.
I'm heading out to Super Bowl week next week, and I've been looking at the weather pretty closely, and I have nothing in my closets for that type of weather. So the last 2 weekends have been spent trying to figure out how you comprehend 12 degrees. And I look in my closet, I have tank tops and shorts and athletic outfits and maybe a few pairs of jeans. So
Now, you've been to Green
I'm
Bay
testing out
before,
my
right?
I'm testing out my new clothes this week since it's in the 60s. That's freezing, right?
Nice.
For us, it is. Well, how does it compare to Green Bay? Because you've been to Lambeau Field, correct?
Oh, Green Bay was pretty cold. I went for the first time last December, and that was the first snowfall of the year. So there was nothing on the ground. So there wasn't like that kind of added layer of cold. But it got to I'd say about 25 or 30 degrees the entire game. That was pretty cold. But I don't know what 12 degrees is. I do not know what 2, and I do not know what negatives are.
I must be totally naive. For some reason, I thought that Minnesota had a retractable roof. They don't?
So you're okay in the stadium. You're good in the
Oh,
game.
okay, gotcha.
It's the 5 days before the game, running around the city, in and out of cabs and Ubers, and that's what I am not prepared for yet.
Yes. But how exciting, the Super Bowl. Have you
Yeah.
been to one before?
I have never been to the game itself. Wow. This will be my 4th year of going to Super Bowl week. So usually get there around Wednesday, and I usually always take off on Saturday afternoon. So this is my first time to actually go to the game. So I'm actually very excited.
Wow. And will Tagboard be featured at the event? Is it possible?
We are working on that right now. So hopefully we can have some really cool activations in the stadium and around Super Bowl week at different events and concerts and VIP lounges and stuff. So we're it's kind of go time right now. So we should be narrowing down our activations hopefully this week. So
And that is exciting. We do want to get into your hammer throwing and all of that, but let's start with Tagboard since we mentioned it. Some of our viewers and followers might be like, Tagboard? What is Tagboard? What is it you do with Tagboard? Because I love it. It's so exciting.
yeah. So Tagboard is a social media aggregation and redisplay tool. So I lead our sports partnerships. So I work with teams around the country, ranging from anywhere in NFL and NBA, MLB, and all the way down to minor league baseball and minor league hockey, and a ton of work throughout college athletics. I help aggregate social media content into one place for my clients to then moderate that content and redisplay it in venues and anywhere their fans have a touch point. So helping my clients bring all that social media content on game day and, throughout the week and stuff, bringing it to recruiting lounges and bringing it to front offices and trophy halls. And for my clients to then be able to kind of keep that conversation going about everything that's going on around their team, their players, their schedule and whatnot. So I work with, like I said, a wonderful amount of teams around the country. That's what we're trying to do for some Super Bowl activations, is kind of help bring all that Super Bowl content to one place to redisplay it in stadium and around the venue throughout the week. So it's very fun. I get to travel to some amazing places. I work with some of the most innovative clients in all of sports, whether it's digital folks or marketing or game day production folks. It's very fun. Every day is completely different. So you're not kind of going into work expecting what you're going to do for the day. I can go in and look at my calendar and have a good idea of what's going on, but we can have a client call and say, hey, we got a brand new coach today. Let's figure out a way to bring all these congratulations together and figure out a way to implement it. So each day is very different, which makes it a very unique job and very fun.
And that was a lot to take in. Now, give us a little layman's terms. I'm going to Dodger Stadium. How does Tagboard?
Let's do this. You're going to go to the LA Rams game.
Okay, I
at the
like it.
Coliseum.
Yep.
Okay, and then you're going to get in there. You're going to get your food. You're going to sit down, and then you're going to be kind of glancing around the video boards. And every once in a while, you're going to see on the video boards, it'll say use this hashtag Mob Squad to get on the video board. So then you're going to then get out your phone, and you're going to take a selfie, or you're going to take a picture of the people with you, mostly selfies. And you're going to post it on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and you're going to say, having an awesome time at the Rams game. I can't wait for kickoff. And you're going to use hashtag Mob Squad. That post is then going to go into Tagboard, and somebody from the Rams organization is going to be up in the booth. They're going to see your post. They're going to say, you know what, Peter, that is an awesome selfie you put out today. I'm going to press approve, and I'm now going to see it on the video board the next cycle.
Wow.
So it's very cool. Who doesn't love seeing themselves on a Jumbotron?
Yeah.
Well, except when it's the kiss cam, right?
Yeah.
It's not just-
I stay far away. I duck.
So what was the theory behind this? I mean, where did this come about from teams wanting to give fans more interactive experience? I mean, what brought this about?
Yeah, so the company started originally with broadcast. So that's kind of one of the biggest departments that we work in at Tagboard. And so, it's, one of our co-founders and CEOs, Jenny Hogan, along with our CEO, Josh Decker, came together and tried to figure out ways to put social media on TV broadcasts. So that's kind of how originally it all started. And now it's kind of bringing that fan element to stadiums. So, Tagboard was working with sports well beyond the time before I came. And, my job when I got there was to help expand sports into all different verticals and to different teams throughout the country, and that's kind of what we're here to do. So, like I said, it originally started on broadcast, and that was the idea behind it. And now it's, imagine, waking up and you turn on the local news here. So let's say ABC 7. You wake up in the morning and it says, "Hey guys, there's the big crash and a car fire on the side of the 5." You can actually bring in social media posts, which ABC 7 does, and you can actually see fans' pictures directly from that are driving by the. I mean, they shouldn't really be on their phones, but people are. And ABC 7 can pull up those live pictures directly from the freeway of people passing that crash or being diverted. And you're not only getting a bird's eye view from a helicopter, you're now getting on the ground content from fans for free that are submitting the content and sending it to ABC 7 or using a hashtag. So I do the same thing with my sports clients. It's, where do you want fan content to live? How many different places? Do you want it in stadium? Do you want it on web? Do you want it in your recruiting lounges? Do you want it in your trophy halls? And they'll tell me where they think it should go, and we implement from there.
Wow,
that is crazy. And also, can they do separate campaigns for different social media platforms? Like, hey, on Instagram, we want to focus on this. On Twitter, we want to focus on this.
Absolutely. So we can do, you can have an Instagram selfie contest, or you can have a, tweet your favorite player and stuff. So our platform allows us to allow our clients to pick and choose what platforms they pull in from. You can pull in from a variety of them. So you can pull in from all of them: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, Flickr, Periscope, you name it. Or you can say, you know what, Farren, I just want to pull in today Instagram selfies. So then we can just say, okay, only pull in Instagram posts that are using hashtag Mob Squad. And we can pull in that way. So everything is very customizable. Every client is different. Every campaign that every client runs is different. We do unique campaigns when new coaches are hired. We do unique campaigns for tree lighting ceremonies. We did it with the Carolina Panthers this year. We do unique campaigns for brand new stadiums and groundbreaking ceremonies. So essentially, anytime your fans are submitting content or having a conversation about something that's going on, we're here to capture it for you and bring it to you in one place.
And Farren and Dr. Richard, speaking of social media, Dr. Richard, your social media expert is with us here today, Jewel Hargrove. She's amazing, does amazing posts for you and for the show.
In fact, she just did an amazing behind-the-scenes light bulb change,
yes, if you
which
saw the
few
lights,
could have pulled off.
Yes. So in between all this, we had Jewel standing on a chair changing the light bulb. So if you saw the light get brighter, that's thanks to Jewel. Jewel, why don't you just stick your head in my frame here and say hello real quick?
There we go.
Hi, Jewel. So yes, thank you, Jewel, for that technical light change here in the studio. And if any of you out there are looking for great social media, Jewel is amazing. So anyway, but so that we don't sound like, of course, what Tagboard's doing is incredible, and we are highly interested in your journey, Farren. And so this is actually a good natural segue before we get into the hammer toss, which we're dying to talk about. What led you to Tagboard and social media and such?
My path is it's a long one, but it's a fun one. But I met one of my mentors, Jenny Hogan, when I was working for Twitter. So I worked for Twitter Sports right out of college, and I met her backstage at the BET Awards. So I was in the process of grabbing Lionel Richie and Oprah to grab them to have them come over to a Twitter mirror activation that we were doing. And she was working behind the scene with me and Kiki Palmer and a few other folks. And she was helping bring social media content to a touch screen behind scenes. And we ended up hitting it off. And it was like two women in tech and sports that just collided. And we started meeting up. And when we could, she was based out of Seattle at the time, and I was here in Los Angeles. So we would keep in touch over the phone. And we continue to kind of just be thought leaders. And what are you seeing in your industry? What are you seeing in mine? And I ended up leaving Twitter a few months later, and she was there every step of the way. And she had always talked to me about reaching out about new ideas and things that I can do on my own. And she's always pushed me to start my own business and whatnot. And at the time, she was at Tagboard, and she's like, Farren, I think you should come to our team. And I was like, what? Like, what? What would I do? Social media? Do I post? She's like, no, I think you should come sell for us. And I was like, sales? Like, who? I've never asked for $1. Like, I don't sell anything. I've always been on the player representation side. I've been on the partnership side at Twitter. And so she's like, I think you'd be good at it. And I was like, man, I don't know about that one, Jenny. And she, we went back and forth for months, and she finally had convinced me to give it a try. And I've never looked back. It's been fun. I don't view sales, very in a normal sense. It's very much about relationship building and how can I help you solve your problem. If I can't, I'm going to point you in the right direction. And I build very healthy relationships on that. And at the end of the day, there is money exchange, but it's a lot easier if you can build that trust and know that you have someone's back. No matter what direction they want to go. I'm just here to help solve a problem. And thankfully, with that platform, I can help solve a lot of people's problems. So it's been really fun. It's taught me how to really dive into the business side of me. And I've always been a partnership side. I've always been a relationship side. And now I've strengthened up my business side of what I can bring to the table. And it's all thanks to them.
So that's really unique that your relationship to sports organizations got you in the ball game. But really, you had to go through a certain transformation that knowing who you were not and being willing to step into the uncomfortability of that, even to take on this new fun challenge. And now for myself, going to ball games throughout the summer, right, I almost don't know what to do without taking selfies and hashtagging,
right.
trying to get up there on the screen. Like fans, especially millennials, everyone wants to be part of the experience. It's no longer just enough to go and like sit at the game and read your newspaper.
Right.
People,
everybody's on their phones. And it's, if they're going to be on their phones, I'm going to give them something to do while they're on their phones. So I'm going to help enhance that. So
participation points.
Yes. Kudos.
And it's got to be pretty cool when your clients are like sports teams and stuff like that.
Yeah. So a lot of times I'll go and, my clients are usually the digital marketing or game day production folks. So a lot of times when I go visit and if it's during a game, I'm up in the boxes, with all the folks that are pushing buttons and making lights go on and making TV screens go on. And USC, obviously I'm a former Trojan, and USC is one of my clients, and very close to the folks over there and the game day folks over there I went to school with. And so he let me go in the press box one day and push some of the buttons.
Wow.
I love pushing physical buttons. Like,
be careful,
it's
Jarvis.
Very shiny. Yeah,
be
Jarvis, you got a lot of buttons over there that are colorful. And so it was one of those things. He's like, okay, push this one, not that one. And I'm like, don't tell me which ones not to push, because then I want to push those ones. But it's really cool. I mean, for you just go in there and start pushing and sliding buttons around, and all of a sudden you're live on the video boards. It's kind of nerve-wracking. I remember when I was at SC, in my off seasons, I would work different sports. So I would work football and I would work basketball. And one weekend we had a bye for track, and I worked a baseball game. And they're like, Farren, you're in charge of stats today, and you're in charge of the video board. So you're in charge of you're the one that puts up it's 3 strikes and 2 outs out there. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, if you get that wrong, you can make some people mad.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, Farren, it's only 3 buttons, so you only got to worry about these 3. And I'm like, okay, cool, I can worry about these 3. And they're like, but just know that you have to understand what the ref is calling or the umpire is calling. And so I'm like, okay. And so before I'd push 2 outs, I'd be like, 2 outs. outs? 2 outs? Okay, 2 outs. So I don't know what it is about like buttons and in the press boxes and stuff, but I'm glad the Eagles or the Ravens or those folks don't let me anywhere near those because I can just.
You put the wrong down marker up there. You'll be
It's all of a sudden the 19th quarter.
That is a lot of pressure, but I've always wondered who was in charge of like those buttons for balls and strikes. And
Farren Benjamin was that one day of her life.
so I'd also like to say hello to Joaquin Rivera, who's watching. Daniel Rotberg is watching. Thanks, guys. And speaking of all the buttons in Jarvis, we always like to thank Jarvis, our amazing engineer who puts up all the pictures and transitions and all that. And at some point, Jewel, make sure to get a little footage of Jarvis because he's an integral part of the show. And you did mention USC. I'm like, I'm sniffing a segue here. USC hammer throwing, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. Should we go to USC hammer throw or should we go to, playing football in high school?
Right. I think we need to go.
We need to go
I
there.
think we need to go all the way back and then to the hammer throw. Or it's a hammer toss.
Hammer throw.
Okay, it's hammer throw. So because, hammer throw has kind of been like our big, can't wait to talk about the hammer throw. So, let's talk about high school football. What?
High school football, yeah. So I played soccer for a big chunk of my life. And I grew up in Orange County, and my high school soccer was very competitive. I mean, I remember going to tryouts when I was in 8th grade, and it was like 95 people for 12 spots. Maybe 15 spots if they were going to bump some people up for JV or varsity. So I knew that the odds were in my favor, but not in my favor at all. I always played local soccer. I always played AYSO, and I did travel ball and all-star teams with those. I never was part of a league and stuff where you had to go into all these insane tournaments every month and every weekend in Lancaster, which is where they always were. My parents can thank me for that later. So I always played local soccer and was really good at it. And so I was like, okay, cool, high school, I'm going to play soccer. And then I always had this passion for football. My dad was a big-time football player. The Benjamin side of my family is all women and one boy, and so nobody had played football. So I was like, man.
And I think, is this a photo of you and your dad? Can you see that?
That is. Oh, yes. Cheering on our Trojans.
Yes.
That is us. And so my dad had played football. I loved football. My dad and I used to fly back to Rams games, and we'd go to St. Louis and we'd take red eyes and be out there and we'd be on the field. And so I grew up had this passion for football. And one day I kind of went to my parents and I was like, I'm going to try out for the Los Alamitos High School boys football team. My mom was like, no, you're not. And my dad was like kind of quiet in the background, like, oh, that could be kind of cool.
I figured there had to be somebody who was like...
Yeah, my mom was like, you're sick. No, go back to bed. And I told him, I was like, no, I think I can do it. Because I was in the best shape of my life, coming off soccer and whatnot. So I was like, I think I'm going to do it. And so I went out in June before, so it would have been like right when I finished 8th grade. I went out in June and I did a camp. So they had a camp for like 5 days. And the head coach at the time was Coach John Barnes. So at the time, he was the winningest coach in Orange County history. So there was a big reputation there. We had come off some CIF finals appearances. So our program was at the top, at that time. And so I went in there. I was probably 5'3" or 5'4", like 120 pounds. And I walked in there, and everyone's kind of looking around like, whose sister is this? And so they started lining guys up for warm-ups, and I lined up right there, and everybody was kind of like...
Were they like, hey, cheerleading practice is over there?
No, because I wasn't dressed like that. Like I had shorts on. I probably had tall socks thinking I was playing soccer. And everyone was kind of like whispering. And I was like, they're like, hi, can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I'm here for tryouts. I'm here for camp. And everyone was just kind of like, ooh, okay. Just let her do it. Let her do it. She'll like fall out. And I killed it, right? So I was, back then I was small, but I was kind of bigger than a lot of the guys, freshmen in high school. So I did the camp, and then they said, okay, everybody have a good summer. If you want to play football, freshmen report back on this date. So I reported back on that date, and I made the team, and I was a weak side corner. So I was
Did the coach ever come up to you and like?
So Coach Barnes is the varsity coach. I was on the freshman team, and our head coach at the time was a former. Most of our coaches were all former Los Alamitos high school players, and my head coach was like kind of cool about it. One of my coaches was Bernard Riley, so he was a former Trojan, and whatnot. So I learned from him. My position coach was a guy named Brandon Cherie, and I was a corner. I was awful. I understood everything, but I just tackling. I was good at it, but not if you're like running slants. I would maybe grab your shoelace. So I was the girl like after practice, Coach Riley would always pull me aside and he'd make me stay and he'd teach me how to tackle and he'd always take I kind of felt bad. He'd take like the smallest dude on the team and he'd pull him aside and be like, "You're gonna help Farren tackle," and I'm like, "I'm so sorry for making you stay." And I got better at it. I think I ended up playing in 6 out of 9 games. And had some tackles and some tip balls here and there and whatnot, but it was awesome. It was a great experience. The team and the guys like really kind of stood behind me. At first they're just like, "What is she doing?" But then they got really protective. I remember us playing Edison, and we were at home. And it was a run to the right, and I'm playing on the left side, and there was a lineman that came out of nowhere, and his goal on that play was to just knock me out of the game. And when you watch film, the play's going over here, and this guy is doing a beeline towards me, and he knocked me out. I mean, I probably flew about 10 yards, landed on my side of my face, and the brawl started afterwards, and I wasn't even in it. I was like, I'm over here, I can't even speak because my jaw's like all crooked, and I've never had pain like that in my whole life, but that guy, I will not say his name, ended up going to USC, and then we both end up at USC, and I'm like, you're the guy who literally tried to take me out when we were freshmen.
You
and
didn't
so
get to live that down.
I remember him. Yes, I remember him coming to SC, and I'm like, why do I know this guy's name? Because obviously I found out the guy's name who knocked me out of that game, and he ended up being an athlete at USC on football, and I was just like,
But did he remember hitting you?
yes. I was like, so you purposely, we settled it. We never became good friends, at SC, but like I say, it was just funny that we both ended up being USC athletes in our own paths. And
should have invited him to hammer throw practice. Let's just stand right over here.
It's right over there. I usually shank it right there.
So
But no, it was the best experience of my life. It was so cool.
When you got up from that hit or maybe made a great play, being that you were such an inspirational story, did you ever get the Rudy slow clap?
No. When I played, I put my hair up in a bun and I put the Under Armour or the Nike caps over to hold my hair in. So the only way that people knew that I was a girl is if they saw on film me on the sidelines redoing it or whatnot. But I didn't have hair hanging out the bottom, nothing, because I just didn't want people to target me for that.
Were there teams that didn't even know you were a woman?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
So
And Farren Benjamin, I mean, you might not know that's a woman or a man.
Yeah, it's the troubles with my name is a whole nother show segment. But no, you really don't. If you just saw it on the roster, you'd just be like, "Oh, Farren, okay, whatever." It's not like Krista or
Right.
Mary. So you could, you could easily overlook it. But Edison was one of the teams that caught on that. Number 30 is a girl. Number 30 on the defense. If she gets in, she is a girl.
Jeez.
But I love that they were so inclusive with you and supported you and backed you up. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking too, right? Because we're all immature, we're all freshmen in high school. People usually aren't that developed as far as taking care of people like that and being protective. But it was we went to war. And
So what did that experience give you? Because that's a tremendous amount of courage.
that's what it was.
I mean, it sounds like some people, if they get that kind of disapproval from their mom, that might be enough.
Yeah, it's funny. She ended up being the first one to games. It'd be a 4:00 kickoff, and she'd be there 3:00. No, it's one of those things where you're doing something so against the norm. You're going against you're a one girl on a 99 person team. And you kind of just go in your own bubble. And the fact that it wasn't the fact that I broke through like that and I was like, oh, cool, she's the only girl on a guy's football team. It was the courage to do it by myself. Because you're in your own locker room. So in the summertime, no one else is there besides water polo. Those are the only fall sports that are getting ready to train. So it's you get yourself to practice. You're in your own locker room. You got to make sure you coordinate it with the janitors to open up your locker room because they're not used to opening up a women's locker room for football practice. And it's kind of just getting through the fact that I could make it through those practices. I mean, you're hitting all practice long. You're doing drills. You're running. You're trying to compete. to get playing time. You're trying to compete to get attention. We had to watch film at lunchtime. So it was one of those things where I was like, if I could make it through this as a freshman and I was 14 years old, and I can get through the rigors of playing a sport like that and understanding what it's like to be in that world, there's not really any challenges that are harder than that. And it's one of those things where it's probably one of the best accomplishments of my life. And it's like I said, it's freshman football, right? It's 9 games of your life and stuff, but it's kind of just being that one person who decided to do things differently and may not have had the support of everybody at the beginning, but earned everybody's respect. And I was there to play ball. I wasn't there to goof around. I wasn't there to just run around with 99 guys my freshman year in high school. I mean, my first day, this is the best part, my first day of high school, I had to wear my jersey, because it was game day. So on game day, you got to wear your jersey to school. So my first everybody at that high school that saw me on the first day of school, their first impression with me was like, whose jersey is this girl wearing already? It's day one. But it was mine. So that my first day of high school, I remember I came to school in khaki shorts and our blue home jersey. And that was I was like,
what a lesson in just being true to who you are and having to face what people think and not caring about what people think.
It was one of those things where I think I made my family really proud. It was, I know my dad was like beaming and my mom was finally like, yeah, you go girl, but it was just one of those things where, I had grown up with my dad and my uncle, my grandpa, everybody played football. And then you have a generation of all women and one guy who doesn't play football. And, I was like, you know what? I'm going to let this keep living on. But, my parents made it to every game, my grandparents, and stuff. So it was really cool. It was awesome.
Yeah, your father must have been so proud because, not being a son, he's probably like, well, there, that ends that. So just to give a bird's eye view here, we have about 15 minutes left, and we got to hear about the hammer throwing, but then there's this whole other aspect of Farren that we got to get to. So let's get to the hammer throw.
Got to hear about the hammer.
Right, because, this is like
not everyone is drawn like playing high school football as the only girl on the team.
High school football, then you go to USC.
What percentage of people pick up the hammer throw?
I've never, these are two things that I've never done. I've never shooken hands with another Farren, and I've never shaken hands off of a competitive field with another hammer thrower. I've never just walked on the street and be like, oh, you're an athlete? Oh, that's an athlete. What'd you play? Hammer? Never. Those are the two things I've never. So to Bridget, my football coach in high school was also the track coach. So I followed him to track, and I ended up competing in track for 4 years at LaSalle. And then I went to a community college right out of high school. I was that one person who I attended the 2004 USC Cal game, Aaron Rodgers versus Matt Leinart. It's my first ever college athletic football game. And that day I was like, I'm going to SC. That's it. I'm going to SC. And I only applied to USC out of high school. I didn't do the whole let me apply 20 places and then pick. I was like, nope, I'm applying to one. That's all I'm going to. I don't. Every single person in my life was like, Farren, that's not a good idea. Not a good idea. And I heard not a good idea in so many different languages and terms that I can say it in I can tell you how many times you can say not a good idea in different tones. But I was like, I don't care. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to SC, and ended up getting rejected with a 4.3 and a resume that you'd love to kind of fit extra room on, but there was no room. And very competitive year. I remember 2008 was the biggest graduating class in the history of the United States at that time. And so I knew the odds, again, weren't stacked in my favor, and ended up getting rejected. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Orange Coast College. I'm going to compete in track. I ended up taking 50 units and in 1 year. So 20, 20, and 10 in the wintertime. And I got out. And OCC was awesome. I was a pentathlete. So I competed in hammer and shot put, javelin, long jump, and triple jump.
It's really too bad you're not a go-getter at all, Farren. You're kind of dragging the show down here, but go on.
So I ended up, one of my coaches at OCC was a former track coach at USC and made the connection. And, I ended up starting to specialize in the hammer throw. Hammer throwing is very much a sport of quickness. You also have to have a lot of power. So in college, I was probably 5'5", and at OCC I was probably 5'5", maybe 150. So I was still kind of slim, but I still had some weight that I could put some power behind it. So I fell in love with the hammer throw, and I ended up walking on at USC, and I remember walking into our first meeting, and my coach is like, "Hi, who are you?" I was like, "I'm Farren. I'm a transfer from OCC. This is my first day at USC, and I'm going to throw hammer." He goes, "Awesome. Our NCAA champion just threw 243 in June. What do you throw?" And I was like, 100. And like you could just hear like people breathing. And I was like, I threw 100 feet at OCC. I'd only done it for 4 months. And he goes, sit down. And ended up trying out that entire fall. And my coach decided to kind of take a whim and give me a shot. And he never looked back.
Wow. So you admitted honesty and then got crickets.
I mean, I'm throwing 143 feet underneath the NCAA champion that year, who was a Trojan.
So what do you think you were able to convey that rose to that moment?
It was my work ethic. I told him, I was like, I will be the first one in, I'll be the last one out. I told him I will grab equipment. I will be your equipment manager. I'll file papers in your office. I was desperate. I was like, I'll buy you lunch every day. And I was like, I will do anything to prove it to you. And it's funny. As it evolved, my coach, every day he had a coffee. So it was always a venti coffee, straight coffee from Starbucks. So my first 2.5 years, I did not walk onto that practice field without going to Starbucks to grab him a coffee. And we had Starbucks pods like on campus. So I did not take the field unless I had that coffee in my hand. I did that for 2.5 seasons.
Wow, I love that. What a story.
It was crazy. But it's one of those things. So I started becoming on that. I started becoming like the coach's, pet or whatever it was. And then, I started handling a lot of what I said I do. I said, I'll handle paperwork. I'll handle our travel. I'll handle everything. And so I got the nickname the Mofo. And to this day, he still calls me the Mofo. It's the manager of field operations. So after practice, it's, as I got older and got seniority, obviously I stopped getting coffee. Obviously I stopped bringing out equipment and whatnot, but I was still the Mofo. So anything that went on with our Trojans, we call them the Trojans, the throwing Trojans. Anything that went on with the Trojans, it went through coach and then it went through me. And made sure everything was intact. We were the tightest knit group on the track team. We were the only ones that were organized to a T. And I told him I'd do it. I said, day one, I told you I'd do it. So my last day competing there as a senior, I still held true to my word.
But that being said, you were still a great competitor.
Yeah,
right.
I was.
I mean, you said 143, but obviously you're not going to stay on the team if you're not throwing competitively.
Right. So throughout my time at SC, I think I grew. I probably gained about 60 feet on the end of my throw. So I walked in there throwing about 100, but on a consistent basis at OCC, I probably threw about 85 or 90. And then I walked out of SC just throwing a few throws just under 160.
Wow.
So, and that was me walking onto the number one track and field throwing program in the country at the time, still is. And, having thrown hammer for 5 months, and I'm competing against Hungarians on my own team that had thrown hammer for 7 years. And they at the time, they were still throwing 100 feet farther than me.
They just grow up with the hammer.
They do. It's a whole different.
And how sick and tired do you get of it's hammer time?
You know what? It just goes in and out. It's
Did you guys ever have like an MC Hammer Pants road trip or anything like that?
No, we didn't. We were heavy AC/DC listeners in the weight room, as my coach's thing.
Nice.
Yeah, so we threw chalk around and listened to AC/DC, and my coach loved it. I would put on like Rihanna sometimes because I still was like, I don't want to do like all these curse words, but I want something like a little bit swear. And he walked in there one day and yanked the cord, and I was like, oh. He's like, who put on Rihanna? I was like, you know what, Coach? I don't know who did that today.
And now, speaking of Rihanna, we have about 7 minutes left of the show. There's one of my tragically bad segues. But, I mean, each aspect of your life, Farren, we could spend a whole show on. But we do want to talk about this other aspect of your life.
Yes.
And representing athletes. This is crazy. It's so incredible.
Yeah. So I work alongside Keyshawn Johnson. And I manage his day-to-day, and he owns a sports agency called First Pick Sports. And I manage...
Did he know you were the Mofo?
he wouldn't care.
He knows it now.
Yeah, he does.
Hi,
He won't admit
Keyshawn.
it, but he knows it. But no, I handle everything off the field. So I handle PR and social media and client maintenance and marketing, and I think I work with about just over 25 guys right now. So it is
So
that's
you're
my
first pick sports mofo.
yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Exactly. Manager of football operations, not
Yes.
field. There we go.
Yeah.
So I have about 25 or just over 25 athletes now. We just signed a rookie class of 9, and this is my third year with them, and it's amazing. It's one of those things where, as an athlete, you'll always connect to former athletes, right? So I represent NFL players now, and not only my past of understanding the game of football from a player's perspective, but being an athlete in college and being on track and being around the football program. I worked for the football program in my off seasons in the sports information department under Tim Tessalone, and one of my greatest mentors to this day. And there's just something about it that I love. I love watching people succeed and helping them in any way that I can succeed in their next ventures, whether that's on the field, whether that's a short career on the field and a long career with a foundation off the field. It's a passion of mine. It's one of those things where it's very hard to give up, right? You're following along these people's careers that become your friends. They become like family, and you're helping them not only develop as men, but develop as people that reach out and give back to the community, and people that make a difference back in their hometowns and within their college, their former college space, and throughout the NFL. And it's truly remarkable to be along for that journey. Because I partially understand it. I understand the ups and downs of athletics. And so for me to be here and to help out with everything off the field, it really kind of helps kind of keep everybody very well-rounded and kind of keep everybody grounded.
Can you give us a shout out to some of the guys you represent?
Yeah, so I represent Kenny Clark on the Packers, and I work with Hayes Pollard on the Chargers, and I work with Raekwon McMillan on the Dolphins, and I have a ton of clients. I work with Jeremiah Allison, former linebacker from Washington State, who's now in law school. So I work with an abundance of players that are doing all different things, whether they're just getting their career started, whether they're hanging the cleats up, whether they're dabbling between the two. But I have a big group of guys that I really enjoy working with and kind of helping them pursue their passions off the field.
And a lot of your guys have really inspirational stories too. Like we'll get into Jeremiah in a second, but correct me if I'm wrong. McMillan from Miami, isn't that just like a story of perseverance of one foot on the field and he got injured and he's like, I'll be back.
The Dolphins named him as their starter of the summertime, and obviously they want to see him on the field and see what he can do in all different positions, and they put him on punt return the first series of the Dolphins' first preseason game, and first play of his life, ACL. Wow. So that was hard. That was really hard for me to watch.
But he worked really hard.
He works very hard every day, and he's truly the definition of perseverance. He always has a smile on his face. He's always positive. There's never problems. It's always like, we'll get through this. We'll get through this. And so it's been remarkable to kind of watch his journey through rehab and watching him kind of get stronger and better. And I'm nervous for people that have to face him next year because he's coming out with vengeance.
I'll bet.
Yeah, and I got to luckily run into Farren when she was hanging out with Jeremiah Allison post-workout. And
I bring my clients to the gym. We train together. You got to keep that competitive edge.
And that's how you guys met, right?
Yeah.
At the gym.
Well,
Richard and Farren
was just, almost hit me with a kettlebell.
That sounds right.
So you feel like you better go over and make nice, But no, we've been sharing some of the classes and putting in work together. But then I looked over next to me and there was someone lifting probably 3 times my weight, and I was like, well, I should take notice of that gentleman. And then on the way out, Farren said, "Oh, do you know Jeremiah Allison?" And we had caught him on undrafted, and we hope to, maybe we'll get him on the show someday and feature his story further. But,
absolutely.
But we got to see Farren with Jeremiah and the relationship between, the agent-client, and it was really, you could see the trust,
right?
Whether or not he's, making legislative changes or working in sports law or he's getting a tryout on the field next year, you could just feel the importance when someone's in that journey and working so hard and may have lost family members, that someone's in their corner that they can trust. And I was glad I really got to catch a glimpse of that. I was like a little kid, like, can I hang out and meet him too? You know? So
No, he's amazing. And it's clients like Jeremiah that help me keep going, and it's clients like him that change your life, right? You have people from all walks of life, you know, Kenny Clark and Raekwon and Jeremiah and Hayes and Randall Telfer. They all come from different walks of life, and you know, you when you build that trust with them and you start to understand where they come from and what they're passionate about and what they love and things that they don't like, and you build that trust based on a friendship. I mean, the opportunities for what we can do together is endless. You know, I've put my full trust in people like Jeremiah, and I know that he's extended his hand and put his full trust in me, and that type of working relationship is so valuable. And I'm very much an advocate of making sure that the clients that I do work with in that aspect always feel like that. They always feel like she is forever in my corner. There is nothing that she's going to do that will ever put me in jeopardy, that will ever make me look, you know, towards media in a negative way. So those type of friendships and relationships that I have with my clients is so valuable, because, like I said, when you trust each other, you're now just building an empire, and you're just like, what's next? Like, what are we doing next? You know, we're working on launching a foundation with Jeremiah right now, and a few of my other clients. Kenny Clark's working on launching a foundation. Hayes Blart has a foundation. Randall Telfer's trying to put his together. So it's really great, and amazing young man. Amazing young man.
I love to hear that these young athletes are giving back like right away. That's so great.
And Keyshawn gives back a lot, so it's probably good for them to be associated with him.
Yeah, he's like one of the busiest people I've ever been around. People think that I'm obnoxious and my head's like in 1,000 different places in a day, and he's got a lot on his plate. He's a very busy man, very smart. Has a lot of expertise, not only in obviously football and media and broadcasting, but in business and relationships like that. And it's great to learn from him too. His motor's going all day long. So I think we both exhaust each other. We'll call each other like 4 times a day, and finally I'm just like, oh man, like, I know that you're mad at picking up the phone. I'm mad looking at you calling, but I just have one more question. One more question about this appearance that we're doing. So it's fun.
And now, Farren, it's good. Now you got someone like Dr. Richard in your corner. We do talk on this show a lot about, like, you know, a life past injury, or if for some reason, like, you know, you get cut or something and you're not in professional sports anymore. What do you do afterwards and stuff? So let's take the case of and I'm sorry, how do you pronounce McMillan's first name? Raekwon. So Dr. Richard, let's take Raekwon, who his first step in his first professional game, out to prove himself, ACL injured, boom. Luckily, he's got a great head on his shoulders. He's got Farren in his corner, giving him great counsel and guidance, but what do you do when he walks into your office as a psychologist and says, this sucks?
Well, clearly you want to take that same passion and work ethic and channel it into the recovery from injury. But there's always a little bit, we talk about, there's a little bit of grief or loss or fear that comes up. There may be a little bit of time that they need when they're in the privacy of my office. They may not be sharing that with the public, and they may not be comfortable sharing that. I mean, in different ways, the agent is going to read it on their face. But I'm going to help them hopefully get to the root of, what's the fear, right? The fear is, I just tore my ACL and maybe I'm never going to play again, or the worst case scenario. So I want to help them get to the roots of that, because if we can identify it, not that we want to get stuck in it, but that's kind of what we're battling against every single day. That's kind of what they're battling against when they get out of bed every morning, and how they're responding to that fear, right? I'm afraid to push at the same level. Maybe I'm afraid to injure again. So developing a kind of internal dialogue around, is it uncomfortable or is it pain? Knowing when they need to take breaks and understand that they're recovering from an injury, and when they need to push further into their rehab and trust their team they've put around them.
I love it. And we only have a couple minutes left to the show. Farren, you have been an amazing guest. And like I said earlier, I mean, we could have talked on each aspect of your life and professional career on separate shows. So I'm sure she will be a return guest on Richard Listens on
I just
Sports.
want to know if we show up at events and just start hashtagging FOMO, if it's going to get picked up.
Wait, not FOMO. Like, what is it?
Mofo.
I'm sorry.
FOMO. What's that? Like foam finger?
Fear of
Fear of missing out.
There you
go.
go.
Wow.
See?
Did you just come up with that, or is that a
No,
thing?
I cannot take credit for that.
Oh, that's kind of like a YOLO, I guess. I
Yeah,
wasn't aware
it
of.
is. Same category.
So you've been an amazing guest.
Thank you.
People can find you on Twitter and Instagram at Farren Benjamin, right?
Yep, it's just my name, Farren Benjamin, and I'm on both. And Instagram is kind of where I share, pictures of my life and kind of a lot. It's a lot of family. It's a lot of close friends. And Twitter is where you will catch me with photos as well, family and friends and what I do. And you'll catch a lot of sports commentary. You'll catch a lot of USC. Let's go, fight on, Trojans. You'll find a lot of congratulations. I send a lot of congrats tweets. I'm a huge happy birthday advocate. I love birthdays and celebrating people's birthdays. And so my Twitter is where it's kind of my day-to-day. Let me let you into my world just a little bit.
Nice. When's your birthday?
March 3rd, 3-3.
Whoa, coming up.
Yep.
Coming up.
Party at Richard Listens.
Let's do it.
So, Farren, you've been an amazing, amazing guest. Thank you so much for coming into the studio
And how can they learn more about Tagboard real quick?
They can go to tagboard.com or they can go to our Twitter handle at Tagboard. First Picks is at first with a 1ST Pick Sports. So I think in my bio I have all the handles in there on my Twitter. So feel free to kind of follow along on the multiple journeys that I'm on right now.
Amazing. And of course, don't forget that you could find Dr. Richard on Twitter and Instagram at RichardListens and Facebook.com/RichardListens. He's always very open to answering any questions or responding to comments. And we're always happy to have your questions and comments here on Richard Listens on Sports. So we will be back live here at UBN Radio TV at the beautiful Sunset Gower Studios in 2 weeks on February 5th. And our guest is Brian Reisenauer, who is a U.S. Olympic and world team weightlifter.
Wow.
So there'll be some exciting stories to be had there. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, maybe you can teach me how to clean and jerk, or just clean.
Okay, I won't
I
take
got you,
any of
Richard.
that out of
I got
context.
you. I got you.
Okay. I think that's a good note. Thank you for watching Richard Listens on Sports. We will see you live in 2 weeks.